With advancements in EV technology, rapid proliferation of charging infrastructure, and declining battery costs, the expansion potential of the EV market is truly extraordinary. Given Indi's customer engagements spanning market leaders including NIO, Ford, Rivian, GM, BMW, Mercedes, XPeng, BYD, Hyundai, Nissan, Li Auto, and Volkswagen, we are especially well positioned to outpace this third megatrend.
What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to talk about the most underrated semiconductor stock, and they just reported earnings yesterday as of this upload. And I will leave their earnings call down below for you. It's about a half hour long. I highly recommend you listen to it. But I will be featuring a few clips from the earnings call. Now let's take a look at what's going on with Indi Semiconductor, ticker symbol INDI. And I'll leave this press release down below for you as well. But let's take a look at this. They delivered Q2 revenue of $52 million, up 102% over the same quarter last year, and up 29% over the last quarter. They expanded their non-GAAP gross margin 363 basis points, or 3.63%, year over year to 52.2%. And they also secured a large program win at Bosch, and we will feature a clip from that in the earnings call in the Q&A. Now, as for their guide for the next quarter's revenue, it's expected to be up 100% year over year and 15% quarter over quarter, getting them to a $240 million annualized revenue run rate. And they did reiterate their plan to reach a non-GAAP operating income, a profit, in Q4, and more than double revenue in 2023. Now, this company is known for growing revenue extremely consistently, and I'll show you that on TradingView in a second here along with the chart. But let's listen to this clip about the design win at Bosch.
On the Bosch win for OMS, it'd be helpful to understand the magnitude of that lifetime. I think it's hundreds of millions of opportunity, and the timing of that, perhaps contrasted with the large radar win you had, just to kind of give a sense of maybe, how the two layer on together as you start to build up a book of these.
Yeah, we're super excited about this. Bosch is one of the top 2 or 3 players in the industry, and they've been, I would say, largely missing from our portfolio to date. It's hard to size exactly, but given that this is one of their key platforms, which they will likely attach to multiple OEMs, then we feel it will be up there with the largest design wins that we've made in the history of the company. So we're super excited about it.
Now I'm going to read what Indi's chief financial officer had to say. Based on strong order flow and the depth of our design win pipeline, we plan to continue to deliver outsized top-line growth over the forecast horizon, towards our 60% gross and 30% operating margin target model. In the meantime, for the third quarter of 2023, we intend to scale into a $240 million annualized revenue run rate, up 100% year over year and 15% quarter over quarter, as well as more than 10 times versus the 2020 revenue level, with further non-GAAP gross margin improvement yielding a narrower operating loss. Perhaps most importantly, we remain on track to achieve non-GAAP operating income in the fourth quarter of this year, driven by sustained sales growth, gross margin expansion, and operating expense leverage. Now, I did want to feature another clip here in a second, but I did want to say that they have plenty of cash still. They have $180 million, and that revenue just continues to ramp up. Just look at this. They're now expecting, in the quarter we're in now, the new quarter, they're expecting $60 million in revenue. And I remember when these guys came out as a SPAC initially, and back then in 2021, they were only pulling around $8 million in revenue. This company has grown their revenue dramatically, and they expect to continue to do just that. Now, quickly glancing at the chart before I feature a couple more clips here, this company really likes to trade patterns. You'll see a lot of these patterns playing out. A breakout causes a further move in the breakout's direction. Now, earnings came out. It wasn't as well received as we'd hope. It did cause a bit of a flash crash all the way to the 6s, and I took advantage and bought a few more Indi shares. Now, I am keeping an eye on this long running pattern, these blue lines. I do think a breakout of either direction will cause an accelerated move. But looking at the RSI, it is a bit oversold. I think now's a great time to get in. I do believe in this company long term. And I also want to mention, I recommend warrants as well. They expire in 2026 and the execution price is $11.50. So as long as the stock price goes up to $11.50, you can execute those warrants. I think now is a great time to obtain those, and they're extremely reasonably priced. If you don't have the $7 or so for a share, you can go out right now and buy warrants for $1, $2. And down the road, you can then execute it and get those shares later on. And I also think selling cash secured puts is a good strategy for Indi Semiconductor as well. Now, I did want to feature this segment from Donald McCloyment here. He says, once again, we delivered revenue and gross margin ahead of expectations in the second quarter of 2023, putting us on pace to more than double Indi's business base for a third year in a row. Our steep growth trajectory reflects design win momentum across ADAS, or Advanced Driving Assistance Systems, user experience, and electric vehicle applications. Indi is increasingly well positioned to capitalize on these triple megatrends and the resulting $48 billion auto tech market opportunity. Backed by our highly innovative semiconductor and software portfolio, targeted acquisitions, more than 400 patents and applications worldwide, as well as engagements across all leading global automotive OEMs. But thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about Indi. Typically, these Indi videos don't get all that much traction. It is a very underrated stock. Very few know about this one. And I do have very high conviction in this stock. I don't doubt these execs for a second. They've been working together for literally decades at other very successful companies. But let me know what you think about Indi. I do think this is a stock that will massively benefit from the increasing number of chips needed in the auto tech industry.
Yeah, I'll start with a longer-term question for Donald. Donald, I was very intrigued by the comment that you feel like you have increased visibility to becoming a $1 billion sales company by 2028. I was
Right.
just wondering if you could flesh that out a little bit more and talk about what you see in that time frame from the user experience business broadly, the ADAS business broadly, and then and what role electrification will play in getting to that billion.
Well, I mean, we've been building our, let's say, customer portfolio and design win portfolio over the course of the last period. And as you know, of course, our heaviest R&D investment is in the ADAS space, and that's going to be one of the large drivers for that growth into that time frame. The user experience will continue to grow, but ADAS, as you can see, would be the main engine behind that, and e-vehicle directly pertaining to the propulsion system, maybe a little behind that.
Can you just help us kind of bridge the gap between where we were this quarter, next quarter, which I think would be a 13 million operating loss, all the way to profitability? That seems to imply either very significant sequential fourth quarter revenue growth.
It does.
Or pretty dramatic gross margin or operating expense reduction. Just a little help there. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, it's all the above. So it's accelerating growth into Q4, continued gross margin expansion, and then operating leverage. We actually expect Q4 OPEX to tick down because we're for Q2 and Q3 we're seeing higher tape out costs, mask costs coming through, but that'll reduce in Q4. So all of those factors get us to profitability next quarter.
Tom, maybe you can share how much Geo was in Q2 and what you expect Geo to be in terms of your guide for Q3. And then Donald, maybe if you can share some of the two OEM pushouts, what revenue would that have equated to?
Sure. The first one, Tony, we just aren't sub-segmenting, as you may know, but at a higher level, I would convey that we're delighted with Geo as an acquisition. It's certainly bearing fruit already in terms of these large-scale programs. We had mentioned Bosch, Toyota. We'll have some other names soon to be able to share on that particular front. So the long-term opportunity around Geo just continues to look better and better.
Knowing what you're expecting from OPEX in Q4, when you run the math, you would be over $70 million in revenues to break even on a 55% gross margin for Q4. Is that kind of what you're thinking of for Q4?
That's the right idea. Yeah, 75 million roughly in revenue, gross margin in the 54% range. I think that gets you there.